Hello, I'm Steve White from Norfolk District Council. I'm one of the countryside rangers here at Holt Country Park. Today I'm going to show you how to plant your very own tree. So here are some examples of what you can collect. The acorn from the oak, the horse chestnut, and this is very similar to the horse chestnut, sometimes gets confused, and that's the sweet chestnut. The oak and the sweet chestnut are indigenous to the park. The horse chestnut, we have a few, but they're not an indigenous plant. These are probably the most commonly known tree. These will come from the oak, they're acorns. We can plant acorns, which we'll show you today, and we'll show you how to care for them and how to process them ready for planting. Right, so to start we'll select a pot or a container. If you don't have a pot, then just a paper cup would be sufficient enough to get your tree planted and start. So what we'll do, we'll fill the containers with some compost, which I'll do now. So any normal compost from the garden centre will do this. The paper cup, similar, will do just the same. We'll fill that sort of near enough to the top and compact that down, maybe a little more in there. Right, so when you've filled your pots, your containers, the next thing is to select your seed. With these options, obviously the paper cup is biodegradable, so that will rot down and even form a compost for the newly planted tree. So when selecting seeds, to give you the best opportunity to get a tree to grow, you need to just look for a few things with the seeds you're selecting. If the seeds are damaged on the outside, it could be that the mice have got to it before you have. If they've chewed away at it, it's less likely to grow, so you'd sort of disregard those and put them to the side. Same with the chestnut. As you can see, this one has fallen apart, and when you open up there's sort of mould inside it, so it's broken away. So you want a nice shiny new fruit. So these are good examples for what you're looking for when you plant your seeds. So they're whole, there's no little bore holes in them. Any bore holes would mean there's an insect living inside the seed. So these are very good examples to use. So I'm now going to plant the acorn. The acorn we'll use for the paper cup, and it's just a case of putting in the middle of the cup and just pushing into the soil. We'll do the same with the sweet chestnut. We'll put into this pot here. Again, we'll just push that slightly into the soil layer, the compost layer, and just so it's just sort of level, the top of it's level with the compost in the pot. And the same again with the horse chestnut. We'll do the same again, and we'll push those in. The next step would be just to moisten the compost, not over water them, but just get them moist, and then we'd look at storage for them. The storage would be just to try and keep them away from the elements, try and keep them away from the frost, try to stop the pots from waterlogging. The waterlogging will cause the seed to rot. So now the seeds have been planted, we've watered them and made the compost moist. The next stage is to store them somewhere out of the elements, so they're not going to get the frost, they're not going to get waterlogged. So for them to germinate, they need to come through the winter, they need the cooler temperatures, the moist of the soil. So we don't want them to dry out, but we don't want them to get waterlogged. There is another thing that you need to look out for as well, is to try and prevent any of the small mammals coming in, because the mice will take and eat the seeds as part of their food source. So these are examples of the acorns. So these would have overwintered in a pot, and what they've done is they've started to form a small root on each of those. After the winter months, heading into the spring, around sort of March time, you should start to see these root growths on the seeds. You're probably looking for the chestnut and the sweet chestnut, you're probably looking around March time, but it could be slightly later with the into April before you start to see anything on the oak. The oak is slightly slower to grow. So that's everything really to get you started with your seeds, your seed planting, and then heading forward, sort of fast forwarding on through the winter months into spring to when you should start to see results of your seeds. So we've now gone through how to plant seeds, tree seeds from scratch. We're now moving on and we'll show you how to plant trees. So when planting your tree, you need to select that the tree's location is going to be suitable for the life of the tree. So you're looking for a nice open piece of ground, an open canopy above so the tree can grow into the canopy. Another thing to take into consideration is where you're planting a tree, the location, whether it's next to a highway, next to a footpath, and whether it's going to cause future problems. We've got a young oak tree here. This is from nursery stock. The technique we're going to use today for planting this tree is what we call slot planting, and it's quite quick and simple way of planting trees. It's the way we'd plant trees if we're planting volume of trees, and it's an alternate to digging a hole and having a backfill. So I'll now demonstrate how to do the slot plant, and we'll plant the tree. So the spade I find easier if the spade is reversed, so it's facing me, and it's simply just a quick into the ground and then assist with the foot on top. So you want to push the spade fully down into the ground like so, and push the spade forward. What that does is lift the turf, pull it back, and that's formed the slot ready for the roots to be pushed in down the back of the spade. So the tree will slide into the notch just as you pull the spade up, and what you're looking for is to plant the tree to the same level the roots were in the nursery. Once you've got the tree in at the level you want to leave it at, it's just a case of firming the slot plant back up, the soil around the tree. So you just heel that in with your boots, being careful not to hit the tree, but also firming the tree in the ground. Once the tree's in, a way of testing that it's firm enough for the tree is just to grab the tree and pull it. If the tree's gripping and holding the ground and you can't pull the tree out, then that's where you want to be. Another thing to take in consideration, as well as the position of the tree, is moving on. The tree's chances of survival would be to protect the tree from any of the tree's predators, which would be deer and rabbits mainly. So we have here, there are various tree protection products on the market. Today we're just using a simple cane and spiral. Right, so the cane is placed as close to the tree, but remember not to damage the roots, but you want the cane nice and close to the tree. The cane is just pushed into the ground again till it's nice and firm and it's not going to break or fall over, and then we'll put the spiral around. And the spiral, I find it easy to start at the bottom, open the spiral slightly, and then just wrap around the tree. And you take great care tucking in the branches until you've surrounded the whole of the tree. So now your tree's planted. The tree planting will take sort of place from end of October through to end of February, ideally the planting season. So once the tree's in, we can leave the tree to in its dormant state over the winter months. Moving on to next spring, summer, just a few considerations to sort of take into account. Where the tree is planted, if there is the opportunity to water the tree and help the tree by watering it, then that would be great. The other thing to look at doing is by keeping the vegetation down around the tree. Competition from bramble growth or tall weed growth will block out the sunlight to the tree, and without the sunlight this can kill a tree. That's how you plant a tree. I hope you've found it helpful, and happy planting.